You know, we live in a society that very often treats history as something that's disposable. Anything that happened before we were born, it's all treated kind of the same as ancient history. And many of us in my generation grew up being taught the lessons of the Holocaust, but we always saw it in black and white photographs and grainy newsreel films, which for people in my generation might as well have been 200 years ago, because it happened before we were born. And having these heroes here today reminds us of the fallacy of that, reminds us of how quickly history passes and how things that might seem as though they are behind us still continue to live with us and affect us even now. I remember when I was in my 20s and took my first visit to Europe, and I was, as a Southern Californian, thought that the ancient Roman ruins and the ancient Greek ruins were so remarkable because of their antiquity. Then I remember visiting Mauthausen, and what struck me when I walked into that concentration camp was that some of the barbed wire was not even rusted, and that it struck me so suddenly that this happened not in ancient history, but an eye blink ago in the great march of human events. And so I am pleased to be able to echo what I think is the message that so many have said today of the interrelatedness of these incidents of genocide and man's inhumanity to man, both what came before the Holocaust, and what would follow. And I think in particular of Franz Werfel, the great Austrian Jewish author who was the author of 40 Days of Musadach. And Franz Werfel, with his family, escaped being exterminated in Austria, and in 1933 wrote a book about the uprising of Armenians against their oppressors to try to save their lives during the Armenian genocide. And that book, written by this Austrian Jew, became one of the most widely read books in the Warsaw Ghetto. And it inspired the people of Warsaw to organize the Warsaw Resistance and the uprising in Warsaw. And so, again, we see this interrelatedness. And I was moved by Mr. Blumenfield's quote of Pastor Martin Niemöller, who I was going to quote as well. But instead, because that's already been done, I would like to quote Mary Bauer, who's sitting with me today, a genocide survivor, a Holocaust survivor, who tells me this morning that every year she goes to the Turkish consulate to protest the Armenian genocide and Turkey's refusal to acknowledge it, because she knows of the interconnectedness of all of these events, and she knows better than anyone that those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Let's not ever let that past be forgotten, and let's continue to stand in solidarity with these survivors today. Please join me in your strong support of ACR 45.